We want to take a closer look at what the Senate passed. Their bill would repeal the Obamacare individual mandate. The corporate tax rate would be cut from 35% to 20%. It will nearly double the standard tax deduction, eliminate state and local tax deductions, but would allow an up to $10,000 exception for property taxes. The bill would also double the estate tax exemption limit and raise the alternative minimum tax threshold. An analysis of the bill by the nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation indicated that even accounting for economic growth, the tax plan would add $1 trillion to the deficit. We begin this morning with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. He joins us from Louisville. Welcome, Mr. Majority Leader. I want to start with the balance of this tax cut that passed through the Senate. The corporate tax rate is at 20%. It's been sold as a middle-class tax cut, but those middle-class taxes will expire. Analysis shows that while the majority of the middle class will get a tax cut, there are some whose taxes will increase. Why not, in putting this bill together, make it so that you could say everybody in the middle class will get a tax cut that's permanent?
Well, it's impossible to do that. You can't craft any bill that would guarantee no one was in a special category that might get a tax increase. What I can tell you is that every segment of taxpayers, every category of taxpayers, on average, gets significant relief. The average family of four, $2,200 a year. You mentioned the standard deduction doubling, the child care credit increase. Clearly, most people, middle-income taxpayers, an overwhelming majority of them will get tax relief. And because of the business tax changes, it's much less likely that the job they currently have is going to end up in another country, because we are clearly uncompetitive in the global economy with the current tax rates. But John, I think this, coupled with the regulatory relief the administration's been providing, are the reasons the economy is beginning to pick up. Consumer confidence is up. I don't want to read too much into quarterly growth rates, but we've had two quarterly growth rates in a row of 3% growth. I think this is going to get the country growing again. But
on the question of the middle class, there would be a way to craft it so that the number of people who might get a tax increase would be pretty small. And there were Republican efforts to expand the earned income tax credit, to make the child tax credit more robust, to lower the rates for people at the lower end. Those were all Republican efforts that didn't get much energy. Whereas the energy on the corporate tax rate was always, it's going to be 20%, and nobody's tinkering with that. So just in terms of where the emphasis was on the work, there's much more work that could have been done on the middle class and lower income question than was really done in crafting this bill.
Well, the question is whether you're getting tax relief. And of course, people on the lower end don't provide a huge percentage of the revenue that we raise through taxation. But what people want is, am I going to get some relief myself? Answer, overwhelmingly likely to. And is my job likely to continue to be in the United States? And are we going to have a growing economy so my children will be able to realize the same goals and aspirations that I want them to have?
I think that,
and this is designed to get the economy growing. We didn't have a single year of 3% growth during all of the Obama years. We were clearly underperforming. You have to ask the question, why?
Yeah.
Combination of overregulation and a lousy tax code.
I think the question was about really the winners and losers, but let's move on to the question of process, because the Democrats, of course, have made a lot of complaints about process. You said on Friday night, you complain about process when you're losing. And the Senate process might seem like something that's not important to people, but you wrote a book called The Long Game in which you talk a lot about the process. You say, in fact, it's what's at the heart of the Senate and why it's a different institution. So this looks like a situation when you're in the minority, you like the process, but when you're in the majority, you move on.
Not true. We followed the regular order. There were multiple hearings. The Democrats were there. Days of hearings, days of amendments. The Democrats offered amendments in committee ad nauseum. The process on the floor, the reconciliation process, is regular order. That's how they passed Obamacare. We didn't do anything that you could call a foul on process.
Well,
they didn't. Well, let me just say they didn't like the fact that we repealed the unpopular individual mandate from Obamacare, but yet they didn't offer a single amendment to take it out, and they had the opportunity to do it.
Well, they had 25 days of debate on Obamacare, and you said the process at the time was arrogant and that they were pushing an unpopular bill through. This bill is unpopular. Why isn't it the same thing?
Well, we'll see how unpopular it is when people start noticing they're paying less in taxes, the economy is growing, there are more jobs and opportunity. Look, we have a very different, it was pretty clear during this debate, we have a very different view of what America ought to look like. Our Democratic friends apparently are quite content with slow growth and little opportunity to improve your condition. We think we need to jumpstart the economy and provide more jobs and opportunity for the American people. One of us is going to be proven wrong here over a period of time.
Let me ask you about Roy Moore. We have a poll out. It says Mr. Moore is up 6 points over his Democratic opponent, Doug Jones. And in that poll, it says that among Mr. Moore's supporters, 56% say they were more likely to vote for him after you said he should quit the race. What do you make of that?
Well, look, the people of Alabama are going to decide a week from Tuesday who they want to send to the Senate. It's really up to them. It's been a pretty robust campaign with a lot of people weighing in. The president and I, of course, supported somebody different earlier in the process, but in the end, the voters of Alabama will make their choice.
And should that be the final word? The White House, when asked about the president's accusers, said the voters heard about the president's accusers, they voted for him anyway, end of subject. So shouldn't that be the case with Roy Moore?
Well, look, I'm concerned about the Senate. And if we have two ethics investigations in the Senate going on right now, Senator Franken and Senator Menendez, and there might well be another one, depending upon people who are in the Senate. And it'll be up to the people of Alabama to make this decision, and we'll swear in whoever's elected and see where we are at that particular point.
In the past, you've supported Ethics Committee determinations of the case of Senator Vitter that said basically behavior before he got to the Senate was not germane in terms of punishing him as a senator. That would seem to cover Roy Moore, in which case, what's the Senate Ethics Committee got to look into?
Yeah, I don't remember I'm not on the Ethics Committee. I don't remember exactly how the Vitter case was handled, but the Ethics Committee makes those decisions about whether behavior prior to the Senate is relevant or not. They'll decide the parameters, if you will, of their jurisdiction. And that decision will be made based upon the facts of a particular case. I can imagine there probably will be a case. Whether the outcome is there, I don't know. But look, the Ethics Committee is 3-3. Neither side can take advantage of the other. It has to be a pretty credible case to go forward. In other words, at least one member of the other party would have to decide that the case was worth pursuing. All of that will be considered by the committee if they have a member of the Senate that they think has a case that ought to come before them.
All right, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, thanks so much for being with us.